Greetings, family. Welcome to another edition of Just Reasoning Live, the show where we are here to amplify your voice as the voice of the Caribbean community, the voice of the Black community about all things of relevance to us. Tonight we have a family affair. We have brothers, we have cousins. It's a family affair here on Just Reasoning. I'm one of your hosts, C-Dub. We have Tex, cousin, we have Special, cousin, and we have a special guest tonight. If you notice, the heads get a lot bigger tonight because we have a special big head boy, my big brother, Brian Walters. We're going to be reasoning about enough things as usual. A lot of interesting topics as usual. There's a lot that has happened this past week, as it is in every week, especially under this Trump administration, which we don't really spend too much time talking about it because it consumes people's attention too much. But tonight we actually have only time we really touch on Trump is when only time we really talk about Trump is when issues come up kind of related to either Black people or Caribbean people. And there are a couple issues I wanted to, before we go into the in-depth interview with Mr. Brian Walters, big head boy, also known as touch a couple issues. The first, just a follow-up on a topic we touched on last week, was that how the Trump administration had made I don't know if it's an executive order or a decision, some kind of thing, where they were going to revoke all the visas of international students if their schools had decided to do 100% online programs, which is obviously
virtual
nonsense, right?
Ludicrous.
And again, he was just trying to pick on the normal, people, internet foreigners. That's just his thing. That's his MO. So as it is, Harvard and MIT first decided to file a lawsuit to block that action from happening. And then from that, I think like 18 states decided to join the lawsuit as well. And Trump is nothing else than a bully. And so as it is with most bullies, thump them in the mouth and the back down. So What did they do? They rescinded the thing. And so that thing that we talked about last week, which was of concern to Caribbean students, international students, all about, they decided, okay, my bad, we're not going to do that again. So, just more foolishness as usual.
Wins for the small guy.
Yeah. So that's how you have to deal with a bully, people. Don't run from a bully. When I'm dealing with you, one thump in your face and it's done. That's how it goes. Not true, Special.
Of course. One thump on the big nose.
Talk middle.
All right. One more thing. On this dirty boy Trump. Sorry. Most be professional. I came across a story the other day. Somebody who was in the Department of Homeland Security or something, talking about when Hurricane Maria hit Puerto Rico. And we already saw that, even though they're American citizens, the way that they responded to those American citizens was like it's just some foreign language they have nothing to do with. And they said he literally asked the question, can we sell Puerto Rico? Like literally about to sell Puerto Rico. Everything to him is transactional. And they literally looked into the possibility. I don't know, it probably sent somebody to go and look into it, but they wanted to actually sell Puerto Rico, which, that's his MO. That's how he operates.
I have a question. Can we sell your ass? How about that? Can we sell your ass? Oh, excuse me, can I say that?
Hey, yes, you can. Hey,
biggest problem would be finding a buyer.
Exactly.
Well, no. Somebody might want that to do something with it now.
Like what?
Solid point.
You got a warrant out for his arrest,
100% useless.
Yeah.
Doesn't he have a warrant out for his arrest? You don't think they'll pay for that?
Yeah. America's living very ghetto right now. President got a warrant. What is that? All right, before we go into the last quick topic we're going to run through. also saw a headline this week about Barbados. Barbados, a country very familiar to me and the big head boy. For years we've been going there every year to go and watch cricket. And they have, they're encouraging people to come and, what I call it is work from BIM for a year. So where they're setting up a program where you can get a visa for a 12-month stay during this pandemic. What they're trying to do is with all the people who are working remotely, why do you have to work from your home in East Texas when you can go out and work in Barbados for a year? Right?
Oh,
so
I'm convinced. Sign me up.
Exactly. And when we think about the impact that this COVID-19 has had on the Caribbean, like Jamaica and other islands that depend a lot on tourism, you have to think differently about how can we get the economy to still thrive. And so I thought that was just a different kind of idea. Where they are, they want to recruit people to come and work there for a year. So I thought that was a great idea. Yeah. I guess we're all in agreement on that. That's a good thing. Who's going? Who buying the ticket when we're going? Hey,
well, if we can watch,
let me check with the boss.
Yeah, the boss will always have the final say on that one.
Let me check with the boss.
There are clips in Barbados right now. If you go there right now, you'll see statues of me and Brian. Because we run that
Pretty
place
much.
mad.
Pretty much. Every year.
Pressure, you hear this?
Every year.
Hey, Confederate soldiers had statues too.
Oh,
If
Lord
anything,
of
Mars
mercy.
Pete run the place.
Oh, Lord of
him.
mercy.
Oh, yeah. Daddy gets off
I'd
the
have done
plane
that.
and it's like, oh, sir.
Yeah, exactly.
My big brother, much older brother. I mean, he's
On the back
younger
of
though.
the year.
How that happen?
Yeah, you whatever.
because the man grew up. Anyway, so he is many things. I'll allow him to introduce himself. I acknowledge that he's my brother. Yes, I'm the more handsome brother, of course. But what we're here, we're talking about a few different topics. So, Mr. Brian Walters, introduce yourself. Our subject is about cricket. So, talk about your cricket credentials. See if we can trust what you're saying or not.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on here. My the one phrase that I always say is that before anything else, I am a cricket fan, and I'm sure
Even before a black man.
Exactly. So I wasn't exactly born with a cricket bat or a ball in my hand, but I'm sure that not too long after the birth, the first time I held either a cricket bat or a cricket ball. And the earliest memories of childhood, all the way from Cascade in Central St. Anne.
It's around 1955 or something.
1955, 56, so somewhere right before Jamaica gained independence.
Man.
The best memories that I have growing up are just playing cricket. You look, I tell people I didn't even own a real cricket ball and a cricket bat until I moved to this country in 1982.
What kind of bat you used to use?
Listen, me man, you have coconut bats, right?
Yeah.
You get a coconut
Yo,
bat.
me used to play too, and I talk like I don't think
Listen.
you never used to play.
Them have coconut bat in a Kingston.
You
Then I
understand?
must. You wait until the coconut tree limb drop down.
Yeah.
You will get to a machete and you cut
Yeah,
out there.
exactly.
My shit there,
You
though?
go-
All right, sorry.
All right. And then
Then
you
you
go
go
get a
pick
sponge ball. You get a
you-
sponge ball.
No, man, no.
Or you can wrap your
no,
own
man.
still.
Hold on. Before you even do all of that, you have to get the orange. Get a green orange.
Yes.
And a green orange is a
Orange.
cricket ball.
Oh,
And you bowl a
then you
green
can-
orange. You
And
bowl
a
a
big
green
box.
orange for about 5-6 overs, and then it busts, and then you go pick another one, and you pick up the game
Oh,
same
what
way.
kind of orange is that?
And the game goes on.
1-6 on that orange done.
Yeah, but-
Not even 4.
Yeah,
1-6.
So
I
We're not wrong with our orange.
we all have, we have fond memories of,
Sure.
growing up playing cricket. It's something, I retired from the sport a while back. After I set some world records when I was 9 years old, but after that I kind of retired. So you may be wondering, why are we discussing cricket? There are many reasons, but that's the main reason I wanted to have Brian on the show tonight. His work in, talk about what you've done, like administrative wise with cricket, to kind of set the context for that.
Sure. So somewhere around 2010, I started my administrative career in cricket. At other times, I've been a member of the board of directors of the USA Cricket Association. I have been, in fact, I'm currently a member of the youth development subcommittee of USA Cricket. I've been, vice president of the league, president of the league here, head of the umpiring association, just several different administrative issues. And then, without getting into the politics of USA Cricket, and yes, there's a lot of politics having to do with USA Cricket. That can be a whole other show by itself. But somewhere around 2015, the International Cricket Council asked me to be one of 7 people to help develop the sport in the US, just from an administrative standpoint. And so on top of all of that, somewhere in 2013, ESPN found out that I know a little bit about cricket. So every time ESPN is producing a cricket show and that coverage is based here in the US, they have me on the production team. So the production team, ESPN.
Go on, superstar.
Yeah, man. That's how much
The same little coconut bat boy.
Same little coconut bat boy.
It's on ESPN.
So if you ever see a cricket highlight on ESPN and you hear the announcer describing what happened, basically I wrote the script for that person to be saying what they're saying. It's a really interesting, it's a kind of a side gig. It happens every once in a while.
Yeah.
In fact, it doesn't happen as much anymore since ESPN found out that they can go to India and pay somebody 1/10 what they used to pay me. so my
outsourcing.
I'm not outsourced. I had to fall back on my day job. But as far as USA Cricket is concerned, also, every once in a while, I am their on-air personality where there's commentary that's needed. I commentate mostly on youth and women's cricket, and I'm a bow in their arrow I'm an arrow in their bow rather when it comes to being able to produce high-level cricket. So apart from all that, I don't know anything at all about cricket.
and you have a child prodigy over there, don't you?
Well, that's a whole other issue. If you look at the back of my phone,
just happen to have it handy.
Yeah,
is a picture of my son Jaden, who is 13. He turns 14 in 9 days. And he is a tremendous soccer player. Matter of fact, my oldest son, Kyle.
What name soccer? Yo, I can't
sorry. Hey,
football.
Football, you man are doing
disrespect, man.
Sorry.
A Facebook, is not Jamaican book. You must talk right.
My oldest son, Kyle, is a football player for the Charleston Battery in the USA.
Football where you use your feet.
Football where you use your foot. And so Kyle, in fact, hasn't been playing for the last several months, but his first game back post-COVID is this Sunday.
Okay.
Jaden, my younger son, is also a fantastic football player, but he's an even better cricket player. One of my biggest issues, and it's a soapbox issue for me, is that at present, USA Cricket does not have the pathway for somebody his age to be able to produce or to be able to progress in that sport. So that's why my contribution to USA Cricket right now is fueled by the commitment to not have somebody who is as talented as my son have to pick a different path because of the existence is not there for that pathway.
Or are you going to have to move?
You know what?
That's what a lot of people do.
Every year, somebody from Australia or England or South Africa said to me, "You need to bring your son here. He will be an absolute superstar."
Like I tell Jaden, there's a whole lot more money in football, so keep doing what you're doing.
Not really,
And he can set the bar. He can raise the bar.
I'm not privy to how much those cricketers
I ain't got nothing to do with that.
All right, so with that, we just want to kind of set the table of Brian's cricket credentials, so you can actually trust what him have to say. He's like the Dr. Fauci of cricket. That's what we call him.
Without Dr. Fauci, without the complaints.
So the reason why this particular I thought of this issue for the show is that we know most sports around the world have been locked down for the past 3-4 months, but cricket just started back playing, and it started back with West Indies cricket team playing against England. So it's basically the colonized versus the colonialists, right? And as has been happening in many sporting events as a result of the Black Lives Matter movement after the George Floyd thing, the George Floyd murder. Let me not call it a thing.
Thank you. Thank you.
That people have been using their platform to make demonstrations and to acknowledge the state that black people getting murdered left and right by people who have been sworn to serve and protect us, and nothing is happening. So the way that the West Indies, predominantly black players, probably all black players at this point, the way that when they started the match against England, they came out and everybody on both teams, got on one knee. Fists in the I don't know if the England people had fists in the air, but all the West Indies players had fists in the air with black gloves, and it just spoke to what sports can mean for advancing society in certain areas, and so based on that, the topic of the segment is fire in a Babylon. Fire still a burning in a Babylon, cricket and colonialism. The Fire in Babylon reference is about a documentary that came out a few years back about the West Indies cricket team. And me, as somebody who I watch cricket when I'm at the match itself. I don't really watch it on TV like Brian and Daddy, right? But it talks about the importance of West Indies cricket, and so that in representing the colonized or the former slaves or sons of slaves and great grandsons of slaves playing against the slave masters. And so, Brian, based on that, I want to talk about like the history of West Indies cricket itself. We know cricket originated by England, who were colonizing the Caribbean. But when you have international cricket, you have like Pakistan, you have India, you have South Africa, you have England, obviously Australia. These are all countries. How did it come to be that the West Indies, a group of different islands, decided to play as one unit? What is the history behind that? And so let's start with that question. What is the history behind that?
If you're asking me for the specific reason why we grouped as a group of separate countries to play as under one umbrella, I don't know the specific reason behind that. But West Indies cricket started, I want to say 1930 or somewhere around there. What is very important?
5 years old back then, right?
I was the first year of college, actually.
I wish.
But understand a couple of things. Number one, the only thing that each of us in the Caribbean and all of the different English-speaking Caribbean islands, the only thing that we ever do together as one is play cricket. We're completely separate islands, completely separate governments. In many ways, we are rivals against each other. There is differing levels of anywhere between animosity and hatred for the other islands. But when you put us all under the West Indies cricket flag, we're all one country.
Isn't that what sports does, though?
And we used to be very good too.
Listen, I'm coming to that. But before we even talk about how good we used to be, understand, since the subject here is cricket and colonialism.
Right.
The majority of the Caribbean is, I'd say most of the islands in the Caribbean are somewhere between 50 and 80% black. You might count Trinidad as an exception. You might also count Guyana, even though it's not an island, as an exception. But for several years, the captain of the West Indies cricket team was always a white man.
Really?
Consider that for a second.
I didn't know that.
So,
Never knew that.
so like going back to the 30s? Like
Yes.
Mm.
If you
Okay,
go
well,
back
that I
through
can
and look at
see.
the history of each of the West Indies cricket captains, our first West Indies cricket captain who was a
Clive?
black man, no,
Okay. It's like, damn.
was Frank Worrell. Frank
Worrell.
Worrell,
60s?
Frank Worrell, no, 50s, 40s and 50s. So this might necessitate us talking about the three Ws because we experienced a tremendous loss in West Indies cricket about 10 days ago with the loss of Everton Weeks. The three Ws were Everton Weeks, Clyde Walcott, Frank Worrell. All three were born within 18 months of each other. All three were born within 1 mile of each other on the tiny island of Barbados. And all three came up at the same time and excelled at cricket. Frank was maybe you call him the elder statesman. At least he got to the point where he arose to become the cricket captain of the West Indies cricket team. And like I said, he was our first true black captain. Before that, the captain of the West Indies.
Our first true black captain? There was a false one?
The only reason I said true is
Man,
because,
it
if you know the name George Headley is a Jamaican. He's widely
Right.
regarded as probably the best the best batsman that West Indies ever produced.
Was he was a captain?
He sat in as captain for 1 test match.
Okay.
Like the white guy got injured, so they hear George go.
So I'm at the
George,
backup.
go there, go captain
Yeah.
the team.
Go do your thing.
Okay,
Go do
okay.
your thing.
But the first one who was the established captain of the West Indies cricket team was Frank Worrell. And that Worrell led us to a really, really famous competitive series against Australia in 1960-61, I believe. We lost that series 2-1. And when we were leaving Australia, they threw a ticker tape parade, 100,000 people for us driving through the streets, even though we lost the series 2-1. And that series included a tide test, the first tide test in the history of cricket.
And the reason
So all of that to say,
go on.
all of that to say, we have come a long way from always being subservient to the white cricketer who was in charge of us.
Right.
To the point where we started charting our own destiny. And it's something that's really important to us as Caribbean people, right? Because we know that we have the ability. We had the best cricket team in the world. And this is not speculation, this is a fact. From 1975 to 1995, we went for 20 years without losing a single test series ever. Right? And so far and away the best cricketers on the planet. There's so many different angles to go with that, but in the context of this conversation, we assembled a battery of fast bowlers. For those of you who don't know cricket, think of people who are hurling the ball at the batsman at close to 100 miles an hour, right? And most people had 1 or 2 good fast bowlers. We had 4 or 5. Every single ball that was coming to you at that pace.
Right. So let me jump in here. As you can tell, Brian kind of likes cricket a little bit.
Just a little. Just a little.
So,
I'll go until you cut me off.
Exactly.
No, the relevance of all that, this is, the unjust reason we talk, real issues, right? Not that sport isn't real; it's very real. But this that time that Brian just referenced in the second 30 minutes of his speech was about in the 1970s and 80s. We moved from Jamaica early 1980s. The West Indies was a dominant cricket team, right? And what's important about that is that it wasn't just about sports, right? Yes, they were dominant, and with a black captain, Clive Lloyd from Guyana.
Yep. Hey!
Oh, you learned some.
Guyana, and I think probably all the players on the team were black or Indian. I don't remember any white players at all during that time.
Yeah, there were no white players in the 70s, no.
Right. So what it represents represented, as I mentioned, the Fire in Babylon documentary. You should look that up. It's an excellent documentary.
Highly recommend it.
Even if you barely know anything about cricket, what it represented was the former slave colonies joining forces together and whooping the asses of the former slave masters. So that's what West Indies cricket represented during that time period. And that's why West Indies cricket matters. You know, beyond anything about the sport itself, it matters from, you know, just the cohesive unit of different islands coming together, you know, to what the slave master. So what brought that to mind again was one of the fast bowlers that Brian mentioned just now. Again, that was probably in the last 15 minutes of this conversation when we talk about the dominant bowling attack, was Michael Holden. And that was probably my favorite player, you know, back then, because he's Jamaican, right? And he was a dominant player. Now he is a cricket analyst. And so as you know, we came to, you know, this past, you know, I think it's last week when the cricket started playing again, he gave an impassioned speech, you know, about race and society, like literally brought the man to tears. And, you know, Brian, as somebody who knows him personally, kind of talk about that. What was the importance of that speech? And we'll post a link to the speech for those of you who have not seen it. Kind of talk about like the way that speech hit you, and knowing Michael as you do, where you think that was really coming from, and just speak on that for a little bit.
Michael Holding, if you were not one of the most prominent cricketers in cricket history, and now currently the most prominent and sought after broadcaster, is nothing if not just a genuinely nice individual. Somebody who I've known for about maybe 8 years or so, but somebody who, if we see each other now, it's almost like we've known each other our entire lives. But the one thing, he does complete me. But the one thing that you can say about Michael is that he is fiercely proud. Fiercely proud. Maybe we'll get to the Rebel tours to South Africa in a minute, because that's also relevant. But Michael was one of those players who said, under no circumstances am I going to go to South Africa and get paid with blood money. He's somebody who has extremely strong, passionate opinions.
And what was the issue with South Africa? To set the context for the millennials who are watching this now.
So I'll take 30 seconds to tell that
30-second version, not the 30-minute version.
Good luck.
South Africa, everybody knows what apartheid was, it was, right? And so because of apartheid, the International Cricket Council did not allow the country of South Africa to play international cricket from the time they started apartheid until it ended in the early 1990s. So there was no relationship between the ICC or any of the other international cricket countries and South Africa at the highest level. But the next level down, the people of South Africa knew that the best cricketers in the world were from the Caribbean. And so if you have, let's say, the best 15 people in the country in the Caribbean are playing cricket, the next level down, people from South Africa would try to get our players and take them to South Africa to help them play cricket, or to help them play better, help them coach, play what's called, they used to call them rebel tours. Obviously, there was so much animosity between the players who were representing West Indies and the ones who chose to go to South Africa. If you live in a country where people who... Michael Holding was one of the players who refused to go to South Africa.
Wrap it up. Wrap him up.
Really loves cricket. And so, hey, we could just start the Zoom and all go to bed. Tomorrow morning, Brian still a chat cricket.
Oh wow!
But so Michael was one of those players who refused to go, and rightly so, because of the status of the race relations in South Africa. So he's extremely passionate about a number of issues, not the least of which is being treated as an equal. And so when he spoke before the cricket match the other day, it was coming from a place of true passion. It was coming from a place of, I cannot believe that we as Black people still have to be fighting this fight. Holding is now maybe 66 years old or so. So he's seen everything from Martin Luther King forward, right? And so when he just started talking about the extent to which he himself experienced racism, his own parents were victims of racism, and in the middle of that entire conversation, he just literally broke down and started crying. And you see this man who is so prominent, such a larger-than-life figure, brought to tears by the injustices of Black versus white relationships. It's something that really touched me personally, and it really made me see how affected he was by it.
Yeah, I watched that speech the other night, and it was moving, and and he spoke about this really not from a cricket standpoint, right? Just from a societal standpoint. And one of the things that he mentioned was how growing up, from his days in school, he's about 20 years older than me, to present day, it is really taught that everything good is white, everything bad is Black, right? So he said something which I never knew before. He mentioned, we talk about like who invented the light bulb. Everybody knows that was Thomas Edison, because that's what we were taught. We're taught that through school, so everybody know. And then he also mentioned this. But do you know that when he first invented the light bulb, he invented with a paper filament, which burnt out and didn't last. And so you need a carbon filament. Do you know who invented the carbon filament? And he's no, you don't, because you were never taught that, because he was a Black man. Yep. A Black man named Louis Latimer, I think is his name. And, just many different things. He mentioned, just how Jesus is portrayed as this white man. And they talk about Judas, who betrayed Jesus. They always portray him as somebody dark. Yeah. So, like, these things are, subtle, but they have a purpose. And what it does is, that's why, as Holden himself mentioned, when he's thinking back to his parents, they went through the same nonsense. He went through some of this nonsense, and his kids are going through the same nonsense. So it's just like, enough. I doubt that when he started talking about this, that he imagined that he was going to break down in tears.
No, I don't think he did.
When something really hits you, you're talking about it, then you're just moved that way. So I thought
emotion takes over.
Yeah. So, I mean, everybody, whether you follow cricket or not, again, we'll post the link to that speech, and it's something that we can all relate to. Brian, you have the floor for the next 30 minutes.
I want to go back to what
I'm joking. Not really 30 minutes.
Because he'll be there for 30 minutes.
Look.
Yeah.
I have a hard stop. I have a hard stop at 5 o'clock, because that's when the test number 2 starts. So I can go from now to 5 o'clock.
I'm better as a madman.
But let's go back to the beginning of the test match last week. At least a little bit before that, because Chris mentioned about how everybody on the field took a knee before that game started. So go back about a month.
You call it a game into the match?
Match.
Disrespect you.
Sorry.
First,
well, the match
soccer.
Started.
All right, go on.
But before, maybe a month earlier, there was talk. This is when the George Floyd murder was top of everybody's mind, literally all around the world, right? And there was talk about the West Indies cricket team and what were they going to do to show solidarity with their brothers and sisters in America, right? We have several issues in the Caribbean, but let's just assume that race relations is not one of them. But in order to show solidarity, they felt committed to do something. And so Jason Holder, the captain, said, you know what, whether we take a knee or not, we are in solidarity with our brethren in the US. Maybe 2 weeks before the match started, Holder displayed the shirt that they were all going to wear, and they had Black Lives Matter on the collar of the shirt that they were wearing. A week before the test match started, the English Cricket Board announced that all of their players would also wear the same logo, Black Lives Matter, on their lapel. When I tell you that that's such a huge development. And so now fast forward to when the game was about to start last Thursday, right? Last Wednesday. England was batting first, so they went out first. We're in the field, and when the English batsmen walked out and they took their positions at each end of the wicket, and then on cue, all 11 West Indians, the 2 Englishmen at the batting, and the two umpires all took a knee.
Wow.
And all of the reserve West Indies cricket players and all of the Englishmen who were sort of around the boundary line, they all joined in and they took a knee. And then all of our players each had a black glove on. And so each of us was on one knee with a black glove in the air for 30 seconds. It was one of the most moving and the most powerful instances where we showed solidarity with a movement that has taken the world by storm. And it truly set the table for a series that, in my mind, is above just cricket. Because cricketers are sportsmen, and sportsmen have such a platform. You know, you hear the foolishness. I really don't want to go on a tangent, but you hear the foolishness about...
Really?
Shut up and dribble.
Oh, you don't want to go on a tangent?
People will say shut up and dribble and just stick to sports. People don't realize that if you have a platform, you absolutely need to use that platform to draw issues to something that you're committed to. And that's
I think Chris has something to say about that.
It was just,
He's just itching to talk.
Yes. I absolutely had chills watching that, and it's one of the most powerful moments that I've seen.
Yeah, so last, and actually our topic after this is that is a perfect transition to that. Last question, how important do you believe that West Indies cricket particularly is to...
the history of the game?
No, not that, but as we're talking about the impact of sports and society, to drive in societal change, let's say just throughout the West Indies. We have an indication of, globally, the importance of that specific act you're talking just now, right, and similar things. But for the West Indies in general, how important is West Indies cricket towards societal change throughout the West Indies, generally speaking?
Captain of the West Indies cricket team is a young black man from Barbados. Yeah, Jason Holder. Tall guy, 6'7". Anyway, I was about to go on another tangent. I was about to talk about the amount of bounce that he gets.
Brings me back to a time when... All right, go on.
The head coach of the West Indies cricket team is from Trinidad, Phil Simmons. Right? Another black man. The head of the West Indies cricket board is Ricky Skerritt. He's from St. Kitts. So everybody who is in a position of power throughout the West Indies cricket team is a black man from the region. I think that there's no more unifying force in the Caribbean, and nothing else that is able to bring us all together more than the West Indies cricket team, particularly the West Indies cricket team that is doing well. I will tell you that last week, Sunday, when we won that game on Sunday, and by the way, that test match that was played, when we won that match on Sunday, everybody who had any opinion regarding cricket was banking on us to lose this entire series, probably lose 3-0. We toughed it out and we won the first match. Anybody my phone just was vibrating the entire afternoon because of how well we did. And these are people contacting me from all over the world, including the Caribbean. There's nothing that brings people in the Caribbean together more than the West Indies cricket team excelling. maybe more so than, let's say, Usain Bolt or
one island. Yeah.
A
just one
former
island.
cricket
'Cause
player.
everybody, you have some people who in the Caribbean, for when Bolt wins 100 meters for maybe 45 minutes, everybody in the Caribbean is Jamaican, and then they go back to their own corners. When the West Indies cricket team does well, and the West Indies cricket team is comprised of players from each of the English-speaking islands of the Caribbean, it has an effect that uplifts all of us and brings us all together, and we're all cheering for the same thing, and we're all rooting under the same maroon flag. It is a complete unifying force for all of us. And so it's always going to be to our benefit that the West Indies cricket team represents so much more than just the individual contributions from all the different islands. It's truly a unifying force that brings us all together. I cannot overstate that enough.
Wow, people, and he did that in under 20 minutes. Hey, you see the growth taking place on our airways tonight. Big up yourself.
Look, I'm telling you, I can't go till 5 o'clock. I'm just getting warmed up. Hey, I'm just playing myself in right now.
And explain what playing is. No, don't.
No.
You need to read the pitch, see how the ball is bouncing off of it. See what the carry is like to the keeper.
Yeah, so I mean that again, on Just Reason, we talk different issues, with an angle, and that was just a very important speech that that Brian gave just now about it is more than sports, right? And I'm speaking particularly for the West Indies, given that our audience is primarily people of Caribbean descent. And from my perspective, cricket, because West Indies cricket has seen better days. Let's say that, but we have to realize why it matters. Why it matters, and it is, as Brian said, it's a unifying force throughout the Caribbean. When Bolt winning gold medals, yes, everybody is celebrating for that moment, but it's one island. But there is nothing else that unites Caribbean people. Not CARICOM, nothing else that unites us more than West Indies cricket. Support West Indies cricket. It matters. And Brian will tell you about get your kids involved in cricket and all that. We'll give him another hour on the next show. Actually,
as a matter of fact, Brian, what's your favorite? What's your favorite bowling technique?
Oh Lord!
Which one you prefer?
No.
It's just an after-work question. Let him answer.
I'm Jamaican. We just spent half an hour talking about Michael Holding. Of course, it's fast bowling.
Really? No spins? You don't like the spins?
Where do you think I come from? Where do you think I come
Silent
from?
but deadly.
Listen to me. In the Caribbean, we say a spin bowler is a bowler who can't bowl fast.
One.
Mute them too. Mute them.
Yeah,
mute
now
them.
mute them. All right.
Yeah, mute them.
I like to verb with Yaka.
Hey,
Exactly.
Brian, big up yourself. But stay on with us. So my subject, it's related to this, but kind of a larger picture, is the importance of sports in general in driving societal change. So if you look, throughout history, let's talk about just like here in the United States, in the Olympics, I guess it was 1920s, 30s. No, before that, with Jesse Owens, when he was, dominating, in Germany, with Adolf Hitler there. So seeing a black man excelling, that made a huge societal statement. Jackie Robinson in baseball, the first black man, allowed to play Major League Baseball. That kind of moved, the ball for equal rights a little bit further. In the '68 Olympics, with the Thomas
Smith and John Carlos.
Thomas Smith and John Carlos, standing on the platform there in the middle of the civil rights movement with dogs, setting dogs on people, stand up on the podium with fists in the air with black gloves. These things are important. Yeah, Muhammad Ali, decided I'm not going to fight
The
in
war,
Vietnam.
I don't know those
yeah.
people.
Fighting rich white man's war when we don't have equal rights here.
Yep.
Here,
Right.
exactly.
As I have many more examples. Colin Kaepernick in recent days, in recent times, of how important sports is in just driving societal change. Because for many people, their only knowledge and interaction with Black people is seeing them on their TV playing sports. So
Exactly.
I love when athletes use their platform to influence and drive societal change. So I'm just throw out a question, to the overall panel. How important do you believe that sports is in driving societal change? Just speak on that. We call people out. You take too long to answer. Text. Talk about it. Why does it matter?
It matters a lot. A couple things. I'm gonna go to my notes here. In 2000.
All right, Brian.
Go to my notes. I want to spit facts. When I spit, I want to spit hot bullets.
Let's hear it.
Back in the 1930s, George Headley.
In 2000, now if I'm saying this correctly, the Larius World Sports Awards, Nelson Mandela. Now, if y'all ever heard Nelson Mandela speak, hey, man, this man here is something serious, inspirational. Check him out. He stated that sports has the power to unite people in a way that little else does. Okay, that says a lot. Now, when I heard him say that, I started to think to myself, what does he mean? Okay, now I start to think to myself, when I go to a sporting event, okay, what is the demographic of people I see? Basically, you see all races, all colors, all creeds, and they're all united for one thing, to cheer on that one team or not to cheer for that one team. It's one of the two things, okay? And I started doing some research, and what I started to realize is that most people, races and groups as a whole, we stick to what we know. We stick to our own thing, and we don't start to branch out until, when? We go to college or we hit the workforce, okay? So in some experiences, and I can speak for myself, you don't encounter different races, ethnicities until you venture out from your own neighborhood. I mean, when I mean neighborhood and things like that, I'm talking about going to school. So you might not encounter an Asian person until you go to college, a white person until you go to college, and things like that. But one thing that unites a lot of people is sports. You go to a sporting event and you see every race, ethnicity, or what may have you at that event. And at that point, you might see or encounter somebody you've never seen before, and y'all are right next to each other in this seat, okay? And the common thing that binds y'all together at that moment is cheering for that team or what may have you, okay? So if this is my first encounter and I've never met, I'm gonna say, an Asian person, all right? And I'm thinking to myself, you have all these preconceived notions of Asian people, whatever, and I'm right next to them, and at the sporting event, we high-fiving, we talking,
yes,
and it's like, man, what you do for a living? Oh, I'm like, oh, man, me too. Where you stay? Oh, man, you stay right down the street from me. Man, let me get your number. So from then, okay, you got a friend, okay, from another race, ethnicity, whatever, that you've never encountered. So it makes you think, about the things that you've learned over the years. So now that you have a friend that's Asian, you start to, see things on the news and things like that, and start to think, you know what, let me see what they're talking about, because I've heard this about them on the news all the time, but I just met my man the other day, and it don't seem like that going. So let me see what they're interested in, and let me do my due diligence and see. And what you come to realize is they're no different from you. Okay.
Yep.
So coming from that, and I start to do some more research, and I start thinking about, okay, everything in America boils down to the almighty dollar. Okay, how much money are we spending in sports? Okay, and when I say in sports, I'm talking about in advertising and things like that. When I did my research in 2019, 30 billion, okay, dollars has been spent in sports advertising. And y'all know what I'm talking about because y'all know how much it costs for a Super Bowl ad. That's the prime time thing. You know, when the Super Bowl comes around, you know, people spend 10, 20 million, 30 million for a 30-second ad. Why? Because they have our attention at that point. Okay, so they're willing to spend that money in order to get their point across, or basically to generate a sale. Okay, so when all this money is spent around these sports that we watch every Sunday or what may have you and covet, what we have to look at is the top athletes in those sports. Okay, so they already have our attention. So when a person like LeBron, okay, comes and you know, advocates for Black Lives Matter, we pay attention, okay? Because these are resources and he has platforms that we couldn't normally reach as individuals, okay? Because all these millions of dollars are spent on advertising, okay? So it has a major impact in everything we do.
Yeah. So, and you know, just kind of, you know, going along with that point, you are absolutely right. I mean, just think of, like, you know, if you can remember that far back, like when, you know, the Rockets were winning championships, going out, you know, to a bar or whatever. I mean, it just kind of brings everybody together. You don't care. He's black, he's white, he's Democrat, he's Republican, he's from the north side, he's from the south side. You don't care. We're all on the same team. Right. And you know, so and with that platform, I love to see when athletes use that platform to advocate for things, you know, like, you know, with LeBron and Black Lives Matter. You know, and that's something that I'm noticing again in the aftermath of the, you know, the protest movements as arisen after the George Floyd murder. That people are really leveraging their platforms. Sometimes it works, sometimes it does not, but they're leveraging it. You know, where I went to school, University of Texas at Austin, you know, a lot of the athletes made some, you know, demands of the school to make certain changes, you know, like our fight song, right? As kind of research, you know, the eyes of Texas are upon you, looking up on the history of that, that has a racist origin. It was the eyes of the South are upon you, and it was basically the eyes of the slave master looking out for the slave. So that's how it started, and then they changed it to Texas. And so the athletes were like, you know, we're not, you know, singing that song anymore. And then, you know, and they made their demands. And again, you got to run up in some brick wall sometimes, because that song talked any UT grad that, you know, that we've been singing it for years, and we thought it was really about, you know, beating Oklahoma. It was really about, hey, slave, our eyes are on you, slaves, right? But, you know, so using that platform, because sports is so visible and it's in everybody's living room, it has the ability to really, not that it's going to like make the change itself, but it gives you a different perspective. For example, like in the NFL and the black quarterback, right? Seeing a black quarterback, you know, they pretty much the leader of most teams, the quarterback or the head coach, seeing a black person in that position, it now gives you the concept, okay, a black person can actually lead. So maybe he can be the head of my department, or the head, you know, we don't, but it kind of like makes it not seem that crazy that a black person can be in a leadership position. And again, that's because people see that in sports. So sports is very important in driving societal change, especially.
Well, my opinion on it is just slightly different. Right. I see sports as a tool to motivate people and to shine a light in a direction that you usually don't see it. For example,
Good point.
I remember first hearing about Tiger Woods playing, and you wouldn't see a lot of black people playing golf at the time, or even pay it any consideration. But after Tiger start mashing up the place, I remember seeing the advertisement. I am Tiger Woods. I am Tiger Woods. Now everybody, especially us as African American, wants to play. The same thing about Gabby doing gymnastics. It wasn't something that African American is interested in.
I'm an African Jamaican, but go on.
Right. So now you have a lot of young black kids wanting to be a gymnast because they can see one excelling and being the best in the world at it. Just like our Jamaican swimmer. Before you usually didn't see a really dominant black swimmer, not to mention a woman that was a great swimmer. It was unheard of. But now you're getting sponsors for black swimmers. So what sports does for you is it shine a light in a direction where another race can step up. Not necessarily.
Let's not forget about Venus and Serena.
Right.
Exactly.
So, tennis
whooping everybody.
Right.
Hey.
So that is my.
They had no answer for them two.
That is my take on what I think.
That
can do for you.
I think that falls in line with what with what we're saying. It is more than about just sports.
Right.
Brian, you have the floor for just 45 minutes this time. What do you think? I know I said the word cricket. Let's see if you can do it.
You brought me on here to talk about cricket. I'm going to tell you that, in Jamaica you have the phrase "cockroach no business in a foul fight." So I might be a cockroach walking into this. But just think of the countries India and Pakistan, and the absolute enmity that there is between those two countries. The only thing that you will
biggest word ever used on Just Reasoning.
What? Enmity?
Speak for yourself, man.
I'm joking, man. I'm joking.
Or entanglement. What's wrong?
Ever see? That's the next episode.
We touched on that last week.
If you ever see the Indian cricket team play against the Pakistani cricket team, think about the relationship between the country of India and the country of Pakistan.
Best friends, yes.
No.
And then think of India and Pakistan playing each other in cricket. To see the camaraderie between those players, to see how they joke with each other, to see at the end of the game they're hugging each other. That tells me that if there's going to be a breakthrough in that international relationship,
right,
at least part of it is going to be propelled by sports and cricket to be specific. And understand that they have the biggest of platforms. I'll give you a quick stat, right?
Quick.
In 2015, the highest ranked Super Bowl in terms of viewership was New England against Seattle. That's when what's his name? York. Tom Brady, Russell Wilson threw that pick right at the goal line.
Yeah. Beast mode.
Gives the ball to Marshawn Lynch. He walks in. You win the Super Bowl. Right. That Super Bowl was the highest ranked in terms of TV viewership. Ever? 132 million people worldwide watched that game.
Really?
That's the highest.
They knew that play was going to happen.
I'm gonna check that.
Did they know that play was going to happen?
Check
Google that. Google that.
You don't mind? I'm Googling that. Google.
3 weeks after
here's
that
the thing
game
you need
was
to understand about Brian before you say it. Brian will say something wrong, but him say it loud and him say it deep.
And
so
you
don't
believe
question it. And you believe it. Like, loud and deep, he must be right.
Look it up. If you don't believe me, look it up. But here's the point I was making.
It's not raining outside. It is not.
But here's the point I'm making. 3 weeks after that game was the opening match of the World Cup between India and Pakistan. Worldwide viewership in that game was between 400 million and 1 billion, depending on how you count it. Different time zones and people watching it at different times and so on. The number of people on the planet, 1.3 billion in India alone by themselves.
Yes.
But the stage that you have at your disposal when you are an Indian playing against Pakistan in the World Cup, that tells you how tremendously important a stage that you have. And if you're able to show that this person who is across from me, who's wearing green and I'm wearing blue, yes, we want each other, we want our individual teams to win, but I don't have to hate him. And the spirit of cricket can help me show him sportsmanship. And at the end of the game, I can shake his hand, I can hug him. And that's the kind of thing that can filter down through to where individual Indians and individual Pakistanis can realize that we don't have to be enemies with each other. You see the same thing at our level of cricket here, at the at club cricket level. Yeah, there's potential enmity between them, but you have Indians and Pakistanis who are joining together on the same cricket field, and it's something that I think, to the point that Dwayne was making, you have a platform and you sort of marshal your resources to engage in that platform to make sure that everybody engages with each other under whatever sport that you're talking about. So it's a tremendously important tool that you have in the toolkit.
True am I telling now?
20 minutes. Go on, man. The growth. Yeah, man. So that was we just want discuss that, how important that sports. If you have get your kids involved in sports, right? It's not just about sports. So many life lessons come from sports. So much growth and development, just as human beings, come from being involved, particularly in team sports. But in sports,
confidence too. It's build confidence of a child.
Of course, exactly. Yeah. It's very important.
So my topic is a little lighthearted because y'all be serious, man. No time for all that. No time for all that serious. Brian with his 20-year cricket history, all serious.
Hey, stop disrespecting me. It was 100 years, all right?
100. Okay. All that. Love you. All right, so. What I want to talk about real quick is trouble in the bubble. All right. What I'm talking about. So y'all know the NBA players had to report to the bubble last week.
Yeah.
What's the bubble, sir?
Who ordered this food?
Exactly. Hey, that's a good question. Yep. So the bubble is a spot in Orlando that is enclosed for protection of the players, of course, that the NBA designated for all 22 teams that they designated to report to last week. Okay, so what they happen to do, well, we all know this is because of the pandemic, and of course there has to be measures in order to keep the pandemic safe. They basically placed a system in place that allows the NBA players to report potential violations or rules. Who you tell? Right?
Who gets snitches? Who gets snitches again?
Snitches. So what I did, and especially that's exactly what I'm going to talk about, because I went to Google and Webster, and I said, you know what? Let me see what Google says about snitches.
Google says they get stitches.
Hey, I'm convinced that Google and Webster is run by Jamaicans. I'm gonna tell you what.
It's an informer.
Informer.
Definition of snitch. To inform on someone. Informer. Full stop. That's all it says.
Wow.
That's all it says. It says to inform on someone, informer.
Yeah, they're intellect, man. A long time we have to inform.
What?
So basically, the NBA have a thing where if you see somebody breaking protocol, you call a tip line to say, LeBron never washed his hand the other day, and
right. Yes.
So they got me to thinking about the word informant. I said, you know what? If I see somebody really in trouble and I call the police, am I an informer?
No, he's a bossa.
All right, good point. So I made up my own definition of informer. Let me go to that. My definition of informant is a person who gives information, okay, without liability or gain for themselves. Okay? Because informers usually inform to gain.
I thought this was supposed to be a light topic. This ain't light.
It is. It's light. It's very light. It's very light.
This topic is gonna get somebody shot.
What I'm trying to do is change. I'm trying to change our perception of informer. When you inform, okay, you're basically telling on somebody to gain an advantage for yourself. Okay, if you see a little girl, okay, being snatched up and you call the police, are you an informer?
Of course not. Of course not.
Okay.
No.
All right. So
let's not. There's a difference. That's a tip.
Yeah. So this NBA thing, though. So as I mentioned, this NBA thing. When somebody inform or snitch on you, what is the penalty? So if you say, "Hey, I'm just in the bathroom with LeBron. I've never washed his hands." So, what is the penalty?
Hey, here's a bigger problem. Here's a bigger problem. You know what? I have no idea how to guard LeBron. He scored 50 on me last night. He scored 58 the night before.
Right. That's my point. That is my point right there. Okay. So,
Mr.
LeBron didn't wash his hands. Bye.
I am sure that LeBron came out of the bubble last night. I am sure. I've seen it with my own eyes. Check it out.
Exactly.
Boom.
So
done. We win the series.
On who? Okay. So if I'm a Laker, I'm gonna say J.R. Smith. Y'all know who J.R. Smith is?
Yeah.
Shot clock, blew it. J.R. Smith. And I see LeBron coming in from an exit. He ain't supposed to be coming in. And I see Savannah.
Right.
I'm like, damn, this dude ain't supposed to have Savannah coming in through here.
Right.
Is J.R. Smith gonna say something?
Probably not.
No.
But
right.
if you're a Clipper, you say something.
If I'm Kawhi. And I see LeBron and Savannah coming through. Oh yeah, I'm on that thing. Y'all remember Belly? Y'all remember Belly?
Yeah.
And Rico was on the corner. Rico was like, yeah, eating a banana.
Eating a banana.
I'm gonna have to drop a dime on these. Y'all know what I'm talking about. That'll be him. So, but the other thing is, and this other point, then I'm gonna pass it on. Okay, you would think it would be other team members snitching on other teams to gain an advantage, right?
Exactly.
What if I'm JR? I'm gonna go back to JR. Okay, and somebody on my team is starting ahead of me.
That's just a phone call away.
Again,
you're a phone
that's
call
just jealousy, man.
What is the penalty? Yes, you can snitch on people, but
okay, so the first
suspension.
Investigation.
The first penalty is a verbal warning. The second one is you actually get written up in some type of suspension. Third, you out of there.
Really?
Out of there.
3-game suspension, and I think the next one is they send you home.
Now we're talking about entitled individuals that get paid millions of dollars, that have people working for them. They go and come as they please and things of that nature. Now that's the top notch. But you got some people that are getting paid the minimum and could give up. Right. And are gonna do what they want to do. Now we're joking right now, but the bigger picture is keeping the bubble safe. those procedures are put in place in order to keep them safe and keep the bubble secure. So we can say
them get back for them tests so quick. And we out here can't get back with test them.
Money.
Because they don't have to send them to Trump first.
Exactly. Money talk.
But that, you know, the bigger picture is keeping them safe. So if you have to do what you have to do in order to keep people safe, I'm all for it. But again,
I mean, I obviously get the importance of it. I don't get the snitch thing though. I don't know.
But you snitch, you get the advantage.
That seems more like some informer thing. Where again, if I can literally get an opponent who I don't want to face, I was just sorry, but they're nowhere near.
I saw Janice coming in the back door the other night.
Yeah.
I mean, but what Texas trying to say? This is what Texas trying to say. You don't get suspended.
He had a woman with him. Yeah, he had a woman with him.
You don't get suspended right away, you know.
But not right away. But people can look.
But you don't get put out of the game just because somebody have a report on you. There's an investigation before, but you still get to play if that day you're supposed to play.
Bottom line, there is a mechanism by which you can get a player you do not want to face. So it may not happen.
You can, but it's not you alone. But they have to find something.
But still, the system is still in place.
Yes,
where I can get a player sent home because I don't want to fit. I think there are other ways to go about.
Very sketchy. To me, that shouldn't be in place. Okay,
it should not.
To me,
get rid of that.
Okay, so
no, but it's a double-edged sword. Supposed to actually did it, and it's going to endanger other players. You have to have a system in place.
Don't have the players going against each other. No.
Number one, we've all been in sports, and we police. Internally, we police each other. If you see a player doing something they ain't supposed to do, you're gonna pull them aside and say, "Hey, come on now, you already know."
But you can do that right now too. You don't have to report him.
Right.
You know,
and number two,
starting spot you do.
But if I don't want to see LeBron in the final,
all right, using your example, you can come up to LeBron and say,
LeBron ain't wash his hands all week.
Man.
Right.
Yeah.
But also, you can't tell me they don't have security in place for all these things. So take it out of the players'
hands. Yes.
And have people do what they're paid to do.
Yes.
But they're not saying that a player has to do it. They have the option of doing it.
But again, if you do, guess what happens?
Look,
guess what happens?
There's a title on the line. There's money on the line. There's some real things on the line.
But don't watch your hands.
So
LeBron
use it. They use
it. Means
so that
they use
thing, that informer thing needs to go.
I
think all of us the three of us are anti-informer, but especially informer.
And the four of us on this call.
Of the four of us, 3 out of 4 are anti-NBA informer, especially want them to inform same way. Anyway.
I wouldn't say take away their right to report. I'm just saying that, I'm not saying that.
You want to keep the informer clause.
Yes, I'll keep the clause in there.
The informer clause. Anyway,
right,
people.
because I don't want to have to high five you and you didn't wash your hands.
I guess all our topics tonight were about sports, tangentially about sports and society, and good to catch up with my brother, my cousins, and just reason. That's what we do here. Final segment, which we call Little More, which is where it's basically final thoughts. In a minute, Brian. Just give some final thoughts about whatever you want to be. You can promote your valuation business. You can whatever you want to do. There's something to leave on people's mind, and then we're going to go our yard from there.
Final thoughts. Tomorrow morning, starting in exactly 6 hours.
And he'll be talking until then.
Now we'll be talking until then. West Indies cricket starts the second test match against England. If we win this next test match, we win the three-match series. The idea that the West Indies cricket team can travel all the way to England, several of our players decided against traveling because they did not want to expose themselves potentially to the virus. So we're actually a weakened team, and we still traveled all the way to England and beat the number one English squad in their home ground. It's such a tremendous victory. The rest of us who are cricket fans will be up at 5 o'clock in the morning watching. If you all want to know how things are going, just follow me on Facebook. I'll probably be running a live chat or something.
Bless up. Thank you for joining us, my brother. With your big hammer.
Yo, love to hold on to me here, sir.
Hey, don't log off, man. Yeah, wait till we're finished. Show us some respect. Wait till we're done, man.
Hey, I'm not gone. I'm just telling you I love you. I can't tell you I love you.
All right. We love you, man. We love you. Special.
Well, all I have to say is we as citizens have to take greater care in protecting ourselves and others. Wear your mask, people. I'm out and about all the time seeing people not wearing their masks. Just do it, even if it's just to save your kid's life or your family member life.
Yes.
Wear it, right? Jamaicans' life matter too.
Yeah.
Lawton Town lives matter.
Lawton Town lives matter too.
Yo, hey, I'm gonna make a shirt. I'm gonna make that shirt. Jamaican lives matter.
Texas.
Yo. So, you're not informed. And number two, remember this is my last thought. The ladies will be back. I apologize to everybody that chimed in and said they want some ladies. The ladies will be back next week. We're gonna find a way. Ladies, if you want to join our conversation, please just hit us up. We'd be more than happy to hit you up. Now, you have to have something relevant to talk about. We just ain't gonna have you on here for your good looks and charm. But
though that helps,
we will have you on here. So, hey, we here, loving them.
Yes, man. Yeah, I agree with all of that. We had our good conversation tonight. It was kind of sports dominant tonight, and we will
That's okay. That's okay.
That's fine. Yeah, that's what Just Reason is. It's not just strict. It's not a news show. It's not a music show. It's not a sports show. We talk about issues of relevance to Caribbean people and Black people, and that's what we're talking about here. I especially said, and one of the simplest things that we can do to save lives. I hear some like real Republican people who, that it's ridiculous that this thing has become political. Who are saying, we don't want to shut down the economy, but still, just wear a mask. It's a simple thing, and doctors have said that simple act, it will help to save lives. So it's a very simple thing. When you leave your house, you're going anywhere, put on a mask, you may help save somebody's life, and we can all get through this thing sooner. And my last point is, sports is important to us. For an escape. We have a chance to root for our favorite team, and it brings us all together. But beyond that, it is important in advancing society in different ways. Race relations, seeing people from different ethnicities in a different light, brings people together. So get your kids involved in sports, and it is important to their overall development. That's my final thoughts. My people, brother, cousins, love on everybody who tuned in at home. We thank you for joining. JustReasoning.com. That's where this will be posted, as well as on Facebook.com and My Soul Rebel and in the Just Reasoning group. Purpose again of this platform is to amplify our voice, issues that are of relevance to our community as Caribbean people, as Black people throughout the world. That's what this platform is for. We want it to be, again, your voice. So get engaged in the discussion. The things that we hear you talking about are the things that are important for us to discuss. If you have suggestions of issues that you want us to touch on, send it to us and we will discuss it. JustReason.com. Check out this episode and past episodes. Log on, share it, like it, tweet it, do whatever you want. You need to do to get this to a wider audience as we discuss these important issues. Family and friends, bless up. We love you. One love.
Yeah. Peace.